Hello, everybody. It's Royce here. I want to welcome you all to my Royce in the House YouTube channel. We're going to have a fun time tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a band that I've always loved, the Guess Who, Canadian band. I saw them twice in concert at the Las Vegas Convention Center when I was an older teenager, like 17, 18. They came kind of back to back within a year of the last one, and I was really happy to go see them again. I just loved them in concert. I thought the singing was great, the music was great. It was all fantastic. Hey, Dan, the fax man, good to see you, brother.
Hello. How's my audio sound? I can use my other microphone.
Dan, it sounds really solid, to be honest with you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then we've got Dawson Walters. Let me do let's see, Novice Nick, I'm assuming is going to join us. We'll wait till he does. I want to give a shout out right now to Rockin' Robin Bird RB. She gave me a super sticker before the show even started. And I've had that up ever since. And another thing first let me just introduce the guys that are here right now. Next to me is my brother from another, Michael Nolan, the bottom line. We all just came from his show. We loved it. Fantastic content. You can't do any better than go to Michael Nolan, the bottom line. Great show, everybody. Great show.
Thanks, Royce. Hey, listen, you know what? I wanted to say something. Kimberly and I were just discussing a lot of the things that you guys were saying. You were so upbeat. That was a difficult stream for me, Royce. It really was.
I could tell.
I wasn't kidding when I said that I came close to just, maybe not tonight, mainly because it was a hot potato topic, and all of that. We did get a couple, and I'd ask all of our fellow tribalites tonight, and especially those of you who are deputies with a wrench, be on the lookout for trolls. There were a couple on my stream, still with the same insane bull crap stuff going on.
Yeah.
But besides that, I think we had a near record breaking audience, and I can tell you, if you haven't seen the stream, this is one stream I think I would like people to see, because I think I better represented what I feel about some of the things that's going on in rock and why it's important for us to even consider. I lost 10 subscribers on that screen, Royce, on that stream, just because of that. And all I can say is sayonara. I'll still get to 9 again. It doesn't matter. I'm at 44,892. I was at 44,902. But some people can't handle a dialogue. They can't. You can't even talk about this guy that he may be not doing the right thing. And they just get nervous Nellies over it. And you know what? I'll never shut up. I'm going to say what's on my mind. And good Lord, if you are offended by that or you can't handle it, stay out of the kitchen, baby.
If you can't stand the heat. Well, you know what, Michael? Yeah. That's what people like about you. And, Betty and I sit around and wonder, I'll be sitting there and I'll have X amount of subscribers, and I'll wake up the next morning and 2 of them will be gone. And Betty will go, why? Why did they leave? Why did they come? Why did they come in the first place?
Right. Right.
It's always a bit of a mystery,
Well, you do get subscribers. They have a thin line. They don't know that they have a thin line, and you get subscribers that like they may jump on when you're talking about Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, and you get a bunch of subscribers. Right, I got hundreds of subscribers when Revolver came out, and we were doing all those videos on it and everything. Yeah. And then, you go, oh, he's a Beatle fan. And then all of a sudden, some of those subscribers will go, oh, wait a minute. He's yelling about Roger Waters, or he's yelling about The Who, or he's got problems with this. And they go, that's not what I signed up for. And so you do get that.
Right.
But you can always tell the ones that just kind of lose interest. It always happens within the last 3 months of your stuff. When subscribers start falling off on the back end, then there's some shenanigans with the YouTube algorithm, right? And it looks like you just got 11,900 COPs, whatever that is, Royce.
No, what are you talking about?
PO4 just sent you. Just sent you.
Oh, God.
Super thanks, brother. So
Okay,
anyway,
okay.
long live
Now got to
dialogue.
it.
We all have different beliefs, and hold on to your panties, folks. Don't get your panties in a twist. All right, it's just
Okay.
words.
Okay, Paul, I'll get right to you in a second. Let me introduce directly below Michael is Dan McNew, just the facts man. And
The man.
Dan and I go back a long ways. Dan and I and Michael were all, we're all together. God, what's it been? 2 or 3 years now? It seems like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dan and I and you were shared it for a good year and a half solid, I think.
Yeah,
maybe even coming up on 2 years together.
And Dan,
Yeah.
I want everybody to know that just the facts man, Dan has a fantastic channel. Dan's connections into the rock world go deep. Personal friends with the Pantera guys, in particular Dimebag Darrell and his brother Vinnie Paul and the others too. But Dan has a lot of connections in the music industry. He's got interesting content. He's an interesting guy. He's done so many different things, and I encourage everybody to go check out Just the Facts Man.
And by the way, there's 4 featured channels on my channel right now. I just added Dan's. Okay, so if you guys are wondering where to find him, you don't want to type it in, just go to my channel page, go down to featured channels. There's 4 channels that I feature. Royce is one, Dan is another. Okay, just the facts man.
Now, I actually took some time off. I had some stuff I had to take care of in my personal life. So I
good Lord, I know.
And now I'm coming back. I'm slowly trying to rebuild the channel, which kind of leads me to an announcement that I'd like to make with Royce. Coming up real soon. Figured we'd do it before it happens. I got in contact with Mark Farner's publicist, and we've got an interview locked in for this Thursday. So we're doing a kind of a joint venture between Royce in the House and Just the Facts Man. And so I'm excited about that. Yeah, I never would have.
Did I tell my tribalites right? I told you guys to get over there. I told you something exciting was going to happen.
That's exactly right.
I'll be watching.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. And Dan, it's on Dan's channel, and Dan's going to record it and do some editing and stuff like that. Then he's going to share a copy of the finished product with me, and I'll be sure to want to do a show on it. And I'm sure Dan will do a show on it too, right? I mean.
Yeah, well, once I give you your copy, you're kind of on your own when you want to show it, because I'm going to
right.
I'm sorry, Jeffrey. I twisted Jeffrey's panties, Royce.
What? I must be missing something here.
Jeffrey Flint.
Jeffrey Flint, make that divining. Okay. Well, I'm so far behind in the chat, and okay, let me just introduce Dawson Walters, Raging Videos, right next to me here. And Dawson, how are you tonight?
Rampage
Videos. I'm so sorry. You're from Canada, right?
I'm from Canada, yes, sir.
Yeah, and I really expected to see Chris Elliott up here too, because he's from Canada.
Wasn't he up here earlier? I thought he was.
He was in the chat. I was really anticipating seeing him here.
I thought I saw him on screen there for a while.
Right on.
Royce, is he in your back green room?
Oh God, I don't see anybody back there.
Oh, okay, because I thought I saw him up on screen for a bit there. But
I see.
I've been known to hallucinate.
Maybe. Well, no. Maybe something happened. So Dawson,
throw him out another link just in case.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll do that right now.
Yeah.
So Rampage Video, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Hello, Royce. Hello, Michael. Hello, Dan. Good luck with that interview there. It looks like Royce got some what's that? Storm Cop. Yeah, Storm Cop money.
Yeah. Somebody's gonna have to give me a translation on that. So anyway, that's my good friend Paul. He actually lives in Colombia, so you can tell that's Colombian dinero right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bitcoin or something.
If not, I want to go buy another Harley Davidson tomorrow. So anyway,
Paul sent in something on my channel on Thursday. Thanks, Paul. By the way.
So Chris Elliott, if you're out there in the chat, I just put another link up. Please jump on. I mean, man, this is a Canadian show, brother. You're all about this. So I want to thank everybody in the chat, and I want to let everybody in the chat know that there'll probably be a lot of comments that I don't get to put up tonight. And the reason for that is because the chat's going so fast and we're running the show and we're all talking and interacting. And I'm going to probably miss about 6 out of 10 of the chat messages as we're staying focused on the show itself. But I want to thank everybody for being here. Paul 401, you're welcome. Michael, sorry I couldn't make the live stream. Today was just too busy. And I'm sure Michael really appreciates you, Paul. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. And you know what? Those who don't get it live, they're welcome to the replay, and I try to respond. So.
Absolutely. So, Chris, I put another link up. That's like 3 in a row here. Anyway, so I want to thank everybody that's joined us in the chat. Please smash the like button. And now, if there's anybody in the chat that enjoys the content that hasn't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to the 2,000 mark. We've been clicking up little by little, not as fast naturally as I would have liked, of course. But we're getting there, and we appreciate all the subscribers. We appreciate all the members. My membership hit 32 members last week. And
wow.
Yeah, we really
congratulations, Royce.
Thank you. I've really stepped up my membership videos. I've been trying to put on
you have
a couple of weeks, try to find interesting topics to cover. So tonight we have a very interesting topic to cover. I've just got the one album, American Woman, the Guess Who, and it's American Woman, the Guess Who. Got some great songs on it. We've got, well, what do you know? American Woman, No Time, Talisman, No Sugar Tonight, New Mother Nature. Then we've got When Friends Fall Out, Proper Strangers, Humphrey's Blues, and American Woman again. Okay, so that's I love this band. Like I mentioned earlier, I saw the Guess Who twice in concert in Las Vegas. I was still a teenager. They kind of came about a year apart. It seemed like it was closer than that. I was actually kind of surprised. But so thanks so much. Angela's here. Rockin' Robin Bird made a $3 super chat before the show even started. I want to thank you so much for that. So okay, so let's get firing on all cylinders here. Jump into the show. And so tonight it's the Guess Who. And I got a little narrative here. The Guess Who, another great Canadian rock band formed in 1965. The band found their greatest success in the late 60s and early 70s under the leader of singer, keyboardist Burton Cummings and guitarist Randy Bachman, with hit songs like American Woman, These Eyes, No Time, No Sugar Tonight. They had a lot of hits. I mean, this was a solid band. I really like this band. During the most successful period, the Guess Who released 11 studio albums, all of which reached the charts in Canada and the United States. Their 1970 album, American Woman, which I just picked up and showed, reached #1 in Canada, #9 in the United States, okay? And while 5 other albums reached the top 10 in Canada, the Guess Who charted 14 folks, top 40 singles in the United States and more than 30 in Canada. The band was the first Canadian rock band to have widespread success in the United States. And, unlike several other Canadian acts at the time, did not move to the U.S. to achieve fame, become American citizens, or downplay their Canadian identity. So, okay, that's just a little primer here. Let's jump right back in with the chat. Michael, I'll let you start as far as the Guess Who's here, Guess Who conversation.
Yeah, my history of the Guess Who, the first time I started really, I heard their hits. I always liked their hits.
Me too.
But they were one of those bands that, you kind of go, the Edison Lighthouse, the Guess Who, only the Guess Who kept coming up with hits, and the Edison Lighthouse was gone. And then you'd have, I don't know, the Cufflinks would come up with a cool hit, but the Cufflinks were gone,
Okay.
And so the Guess Who kept putting out, and so I knew I liked them. My best friend at the time, I've had several best friends. my best friend of all time is a guy I've known since I was 9. He was Ozzie Davis. He passed away. But then, you know, you have
Too
friends
bad.
that you hang for a year or two, and they're kind of like your best friend for that group, right? And
Right.
his name was Hector Silvas, right? I called him Jim by his insistence, and he was into two artists really big time. I was just getting into Black Sabbath, so I turned him on to that, and he was into James Brown, and he at least turned me on to appreciating James Brown. I never bought anything by James Brown, but I wasn't that big. I'm not quite as big into soul as you are, Royce. But yeah, but the other group that he had, and he had like so many of their 8-track tapes. We're driving around in a root beer colored metallic paint job, Plymouth, right? The coolest car we could kind of come up with, and he would play. It was his car, it was his car, but
Right.
it wasn't totally an embarrassment. It kind of looked cooler than it actually was, and he loved the Guess Who, and so in order for me not to have him play just James Brown all the time, because I liked the Guess Who better. It was closer to my classic rock that I liked.
Right.
I would always make requests. Hey, let's play. And of course I'm just now collecting vinyl, and of course, Royce, this is the one that I got immediately. It's like
right here.
it's like One Solid Hit.
Yeah.
I mean, all these songs
that's
at least
exactly right.
got a lot of FM airplay.
Yes,
if they're
yes,
not
they did.
top 10 hits, which several of them are, the other hits like Share the Land, I don't know if that was a hit or not, but I know it was played a whole ton of times on FM. So that's how I got to know them. And I from that point on started buying their albums, and I bought them up until when Burton Cummings left the band, and he did his first 2 solo albums, and I liked him. And then later, when Bachman Turner Overdrive manifested, I liked them and collected them. So I've been with the Guess Who right from the get-go, and I know it's your intention not to spill the beans on tonight, but we're going to be talking about the story, I presume. And what a story in rock. This should be a movie, right? We're not going to get into that later. I'll give some of the other guests a little time to talk on what their first impressions. But that's how I got to know them, is through a friend sharing music, tooling around 4th Street looking for chicks.
Oh, yeah. We discovered a lot of music like that.
And the Guess Who was cool enough to pick up chicks. Chris, good to see you, brother.
Yeah.
My computer, I don't know what the hell it's doing.
I figured something like that must have happened because, I mean, we're in Canada, baby. We're in Canada.
Yeah.
So Dan, have you been a big fan of the Guess Who?
Well, I've always liked all their songs, but I've never been a real fan.
Okay.
I have, nothing against the Guess Who. I mean, I love their songs, the popular ones. But I did a little bit of research, and I didn't realize this, but their first hit was These Eyes. And I found out that thing has been re-recorded by different artists like 40 to 50 times.
Yeah.
So it's so many different versions of that, which I thought was surprising. But also, they didn't really become well known until 1965. But I learned that the first incarnation of that band was actually developed in 1958. I mean, they went way back. They had a different name back then, but there was change in personnel, and it kind of evolved into the Guess Who in 1965.
Wow, was that Cummins and Bachman in there back then?
I think Randy was maybe at their very beginning, but Burton Cummins didn't come in until like 65.
Okay.
I can fill in the background for you, Dan, when it comes to me.
Okay.
I got the book.
We're heading in your direction. Good. I love that book you have, Chris. That's been like the Wikipedia of rock, Okay,
only it's real and not whatever anybody decides to put in it.
Okay, well, tell us about it. Tell us, young man. Tell us.
All right. Over a lengthy period, Canada's top singles band, the Guess Who, originated out of Winnipeg area at 1959, formed outfit called Al and the Silverstones, led by singer Chad Allen with Randy Bachman on guitar. In the early 60s, the pair set about forming the first Guess Who lineup, Bachman taking over as leader when Allen quit in 1965 to attend university. Other personnel at this time comprised of Burton Cummings, Peterson, and bassist Jim Cale. With Cummings adopting Jim Morrison vocal mannerisms and Bachman playing derivative but highly effective guitar riffs. The reorganized group first established a local, then national following over the next 2 years, culminating in their own weekly television show on Canadian TV, Where's It At? Never heard of that before. The group released upwards of more than a dozen singles during 1967-68. First major success was These Eyes, as you mentioned, Dan. Then they signed to RCA in U.S. in 1969. Their first American album was Wheatfield Soul. It became a million seller. Then a string of North American hits, including the double-sided Gold, Laughing and Undone, and Randy Bachman's Chauvinistic American Woman, 1970. The last brought the group their one and only UK hit, while the album of the same name became their second U.S. million seller. However, in the summer of 70, Randy Bachman, sick and in need of hospitalization and arrest from the touring, quit the group. Apparently, he was a converted Mormon, no alcohol, tea, coffee, dope, or immorality. And he had always had a difficulty stomaching the touring lifestyle. Yeah, and then Bachman went on to form Brave Belt with Chad Allen again, and then which eventually became BTO. And then it says in the early 70s, there existed considerable animosity between the Bachman Turner Overdrive and the Guess Who. And then it talks about different guitar players as the band started changing.
Okay.
Kurt Winter and Greg Lusky replaced Bachman, so it took two guys to replace Randy Bachman.
They still couldn't do it.
No.
Yeah.
Good
point. Good point.
Right.
Good point.
Sorry.
Yeah. The Guess Who continue to dominate the albums and singles markets with Share the Land, the compilation, The Best of the Guess Who. And then further personnel changes in 72. The two guitar players left, the bass player left. And then that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, I like this comment from Ergo Split and Loudenboomer. I can remember being that age when the bikes with the banana seats came out and the, ape hangers and banana seats and stuff. Everybody.
I hear you, Gear Jam. Me too.
Yeah, I got a personal story about Randy Bachman.
Okay, go ahead. Let's
Just
hear
a
it.
short one.
Yeah.
He was, I think it was his last tour. He was touring with Burton Cummings. Actually, it's Burton Cummings I'm talking about. So the day before the show, my girlfriend and I were at the casino, and he was sitting there at one of the slot machines, and he had just won the Juno Award. So we looked over at him. He was sitting with his wife, and just didn't bother him anything. Just say, "Congratulations on your Juno," and he kind of a little smile and just went back to his thing. I think he appreciated the fact that we didn't go over and bug him.
Gotcha.
But the show, it was great. They played like a quarter of the show was BTO. The other half, the other quarter, I'd say, was the Guess Who. And then they just kind of a mix and a medley of both of their music. It was a pretty cool show.
Right. Well, let me ask you, Chris, being Canadian, you've been in Canada your whole life, right? Born there, raised there, everything.
Yeah.
And who is your number one Canadian band?
The Tragically Hip.
The Tragically Hip.
And then probably
Okay.
Rush. And then the Guess Who. And
Okay.
I don't know. And then, well, the Tea Party. There's a few different bands that goes down.
Okay. Well, and our favorites change as we grow too.
Mine has it. I like Klaatu at number 1, Guess Who at number 2, and Rush at number 3.
Mhm.
Every
Rush is number
time.
one for me.
And I could understand that pick, Dan. You know what? As far as musicianship and subatomic power and everything. Yeah, you can't. I can't fault you for it. But I came out of the Beatle, so the Guess Who's, they wrote kind of like the Beatles did. Their sound wasn't unlike what you'd hear from a band like the Beatles or Badfinger and stuff like that, which I know you like. But
I never thought of that, but I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, when you come to a Canadian band, there's Triumph, BTO, like you were mentioning, Heart, Steppenwolf. They all have members from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Young.
Oh, amazing bands. Yeah.
Oh, Neil Young. Yeah, that would be one of my absolute favorite artists out of Canada.
I did read something about the Guess Who. I think it was around 1965. There was rumors, because you mentioned Klaatu, and Klaatu had this problem too, where they thought it was the Beatles incognito.
Right.
Well, for a little while there, they were thinking that the Guess Who were the Beatles incognito, but they put that to rest. But they made all these photos, public, who they really were. Klaatu never really did do that. They actually made a bigger thing out of it.
Yeah, I even, as you know, I interviewed through the graces of Rachel's Ghost. Rachel invited me on to interview Terry Draper, who is the drummer for Klaatu. And Terry told me in that interview that, it was all about the music. It wasn't that they were trying to pull a hood over anybody's eye. They, on purpose, back when they were nobodies, and that first album, by the way, Dan, took a long time to put together. They'd save up $50 and get an hour's studio time, go spend it, then plan out the next part or write the next part. Oh, okay, we'll do the bass next week. I think I'll have the money for that over a long period of time. And so there was talk that they were going to get this contract, and that's when they made the decision. Let's just keep this just about the music. We're not going to put our names. We're not going to say who wrote the songs. It's just Klaatu, the experience. I love that about them. It was the record companies that turned around and started spreading those rumors. Yeah. And unfortunately, as the truth came out, because I bought into it for about a second and a half, especially when I heard Sub Rosa Subway, I go, that sounds exactly like McCartney, know.
And McCartney had that song Sub Rosa Speedway.
Yes, exactly. And Ringo had said, the next time I'll see you is the day the earth stands still. Klaatu is the name of the character from the movie The Day the Earth Stands. There were all kinds of clues, right? And, we were all looking for Paul McCartney is dead clues. We were all looking for clues. I was 21 when Klaatu came out, and I fell for it. And like I said, for a second and a half, but I like songs like Sir Rugglesby would be wacky enough for the Beatles, but songs like Little Neutrino or the piece Little Neutrino, the Beatles never went in that direction, not even on solos. So I started figuring it out, but it was so fun for about a week and a half to believe, this could be the Beatles,
Right.
I love Little Neutrino. I love that song.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
This statement from James Watson is pretty cool. Randy Bachman got a copy of the Beatles' first album a year before they came to North America, and the Guess Who played Beatles songs in their live playlist before anyone else. I think that's pretty cool to know.
That's awesome.
That's awesome information.
Thank you, James. James always got great info.
Absolutely. Okay, so Dawson Walters.
So they were widely influenced by the British invasion, hence the name The Guess Who, somewhat named after the Who. And then again, people probably thought, hey, this is the Who, or they would always make these jokes about that. So one of their early songs was "Shaken All Over," and again, the Who did that one, and it looks like they're doing some Beatles songs. Randy Bachman is very fond of George Harrison. He talks highly about him all the time. They might even have jammed together. I don't really remember if they did or not, but
they have similar playing styles. Dawson, Randy plays a lot of chordal guitar as well as just the thrash bar chord kind of style, as well.
Randy, he'd have his gold top. He's most famous for the gold top Gibson, but sometimes he'd pull out that Rickenbacker and he'd do the 12-string thing. Sound really good. They started basically out in Winnipeg. It was freaking cold out there, so they were just writing blues songs, and they're getting together in the curling rink and writing songs together and playing like hours and hours on end and just getting up that sound.
Wow.
As again, the recording thing could be a bit expensive, so they made sure they made good use of their time while they were rehearsing and have their musical influences from Great Britain as well as from the great landscapes of Canada. Kind of will kick that off for you guys there.
Yeah, Dawson Walters Rampage video. Thank you.
Very well covered.
Yes. Okay, so we've been getting just great comments.
Can I ask what you were saying, Dawson?
Yes.
Go ahead.
One thing that is I've heard and I've kind of figured it out that Canada's first hard rock song is considered "Running Back to Saskatoon" from the Guess Who.
Oh.
Considered. I mean, I don't know who may or may not consider it. I don't dispute it.
Yeah.
Like their first hard rock, not their first like These Eyes or soft rock song, but their first hard rock song.
I'd probably say April Wine. Might be, but
Running Back to Saskatoon was 4 years before April Wine, so.
Oh, okay. Oh,
it was from '67. So.
This Eric Schultz has got a great comment here. I was waiting to read it to everybody, and it has to do with if I can find it. He wasn't a big fan of Grand Funk Railroad until he watched the show. And I love it when I hear stuff like that, because that happens to all of us. I mean, let's be honest here. That happens to every one of us. And then he, let's see. I liked the show on Grand Funk Railroad last week for no particular reason. I had never really listened to them, but in the last week, I've listened to their first 2 albums, and I really like them. And I think comments like that are very cool. People get
you know what? That's where I was talking about that on my channel. Yeah, and I see this channel is the same. We are like we present classic rock in a way, and you hear from people like us that give you a good reason to give a band a second chance or a first chance or even a third chance. I haven't gotten comments from people saying, I even saw you give videos on X amount or whoever it was, but then you did this video on that album and I gave it a listen, and damn if you aren't right. Sometimes all you need, and I'm guilty of this too. If somebody that I really appreciate, like I'll hear Rachel talking about an album that I'm just not familiar with, and I'll give that a try because she's piqued my curiosity. She's given me a reason to give it a second chance,
Right.
And you couldn't have gotten a better compliment tonight, Royce. Wonderful, Eric. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just awesome. And Dan was letting Eric know here that we are interviewing Mark Farner from Grand Funk Railroad next Thursday.
The devil, you say?
I've done so much research on Mark Farner and Grand Funk this week. I feel like I know Mark Farner already.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So anyway, we're having fun here. Let's see. Randy collected over 200 Gretsch guitars, eventually sold them to the Gretsch Museum for a couple of $1 million. Wow. What a smart guy. His guitars made up the majority of his collection. His guitars. Okay. Those guitars. All right. Eric Schultz. That's interesting. I should listen to the interview with Mark Farner. Yes, you should.
James Watson brought up, I didn't know this. He says the Guess Who's Clap for the Wolfman had Jack, had Wolfman Jack, which I was aware. And he goes, and a hooker friend of his on it. You can hear her laugh on the song. I didn't know that. See,
Well, that's
I
funny.
love tidbits like that, Royce. I
Well,
just love.
so do I. Wolfman Jack keeps coming up. I was on somebody else's stream a couple of weeks back, and they were talking about Wolfman Jack, and I said, I grew up in Henderson, Nevada, just outside of Vegas, and Wolfman on our main street, where you'd walk right down that street, leaving junior high or high school, Wolfman was in a studio there with a music show, disc jockey, and he was right behind a great big plate glass window, and we stop outside and smile and wave, and he might invite you in behind the into his room with him while he was spinning records and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden he disappeared. We didn't hear from him for a while. Then he wound up in Tijuana, Mexico, with more power than anybody in North America ever thought of having with their radio station. And we'd park out in the desert and drink beer and stuff, and we'd listen to Wolfman and that laugh of his and stuff. And we just loved that guy. He was great.
Royce, Doc Insomnia says the hooker friend. That's why they call it clap for the Wolfman.
Oh,
Clap for the Wolfman. You're
plot
kidding me.
You guys are on fire
God.
tonight. Jeez.
No kidding. Once I took the time to listen to the first two albums and part of the third, I found myself really getting into them. Yeah, Grand Funk was great, I really enjoyed doing that show last week. The numbers were pretty good. I'd been hitting a little higher the previous 3 or 4 shows, but they were right up there with them. And I'm not complaining one bit. So anyway, I want to thank you.
No, your views have been steadily increasing, Royce. Absolutely. Last week's video, Don't Even Concern Yourself. That's still one of your higher performing videos. I've been watching them.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know what really blows my mind? I think it's been about a year ago. I did a show called the song Bob Dylan called The Greatest Song Ever Written. And that song is about Glenn Campbell's Wichita Lineman. And it did really good. In no time at all, I had a couple of thousand views. Then before I knew it, I had 3,000 views. Do you know that this past month, that show, view-wise, outperformed everything I've done all month long?
mm-hmm.
And I was really taken aback that it's funny how a show, and I don't know what's happened to bring this to light, like maybe somebody else is like when they were doing somebody did a series on Laurel Canyon. Well, my Laurel Canyon show was always a big show. I think it's got 9,000, 10,000 views. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 15. I can't remember now. But somebody did a series on Laurel Canyon, and I was getting big views again because people were going to watch the series, and my show was one of the ones that popped up. And the way that you run your show, Royce, because by the way, just to give everybody an idea, Royce, I'm in contact with Royce all the time. Royce doesn't come to me for ideas. This is all his show. I watch for his announcement like everybody else, and I prepare myself for it. And this show, the way I see it, Royce, is like my show. You cover what you want, and sometimes we're going to cover bands that won't pull in the numbers. But keep in mind this: the fight trudges on. You want to, part of this is to renew interest in bands that may have lost favor with younger listening crowds or even older crowds that just had kind of forgotten them. Oh, I used to collect Grand Funk, or I used to collect the Guess Who, right? And so this is to me, the show is almost a public service, and with you, especially for those of you who come in with your comments, they've been great tonight. But also after, leave your comments after, so that we can get a dialogue going on this. Sometimes more comments can drive a video's views too.
The way I look at it too, we're kind of, at least I think 3 of us on the panel are old enough to be considered rock historians. We lived.
I saw that come. Yeah, go ahead.
We lived in that era. We experienced it.
I know.
Firsthand.
And almost like it's almost our duty to pass it on to the people that weren't there, so they understand, what we experienced.
I agree, Dan.
Well,
And also I love it because we've also got multi-generational rockers out here who have their viewpoint, and when they can talk with us, like for example, when Bruce Colon used to come on the panel, I miss you, Bruce. You should be doing videos. We want you back. Come on, anytime you get that thing started, I will support you. I love Bruce. Bruce and I didn't agree on everything. But the one thing that I found quite interesting with Bruce is when we talked about the Beatles, Bruce was what he self-identifies is a second generation Beatle fan. He's in his mid 50s, right? Well, that's a good 15, 14 years younger than Dan and Royce and I, maybe 15, 16 with Royce.
Yeah.
He's got, because I think Royce has about a year and a half on me, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So, and then we get a dialogue going from dinosaurs like the three of us here on the top row, and with young pups like these guys who see it from a different angle. Then we mix this shit up all up here on the panel and somehow come to a consensus. To me, that's what makes this stream worth it, Royce.
Yeah, I agree, Michael. Thank you. But, Bruce Colon, one of the things he always said, because like you said, he was younger than us. He wasn't around when the Beatles, came with the British invasion and all this stuff. He says the Red and the Blue compilations are what opens up the Beatles to a whole new generation.
That's right.
Because they get a sampling of all of the great songs.
Hey, Royce, I hate to interrupt you, but P401 just gave you another 11,900 COPs. Boy, I need someone give me a calculator, Wilma.
My good buddy from Colombia, Paul. We have been interacting on Facebook Messenger for probably 4 years.
Yeah, that converts to $2.86.
Awesome. And you know what, Paul? Thank you so much. I say this on my stream: the power of two. Twos add up. So if you see somebody give like a $10, a $15, and you go, well, I don't have that much. And if I gave you two, you probably everybody laugh. No, $2, man.
Well, once again, I got to thank Paul once again. Yeah, no, it all adds up, and we really, really appreciate.
Well, that's his second. That's his second one of the night too.
Second one of the night. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's been real active tonight. And you know what? This goes. I didn't acknowledge this on my stream, but since we're talking about this, neither Royce nor I make $1 million at this. Neither one of us. All right. No. Neither one of us makes $1 million. This isn't going to make us retire to Acapulco. We put this money right back into the channel. All right. We're not making anywhere near enough money to make a living off of this. But what we can do is take those kind donations, put them back into equipment, put it back into resource material, and present you with better videos and streams. So thank you so much. We do appreciate it.
No, we do appreciate it.
Well, Paul was asking me a question. Did I experience the Monster Rock with Pantera? That was back in '92, I believe it was. That was over in Moscow. No, I was not there, but I did know the guys back then, and they were just freaking out about it. I mean, they'd only been their first album had only been released maybe 2 years, and here they are playing in front of over 1 million people.
Wow.
Yeah. Eric just said something really nice. Thank you, Eric Schultz. Michael, you really stated it well about you guys of different ages mixing up your views to reach a consensus. My first Beatles album was the Red Album, Christmas, 1973, when I just turned 11. That's exactly what we were talking about.
Right. Well, my rock and roll roots started, and I don't know how many people remember this, but we didn't have fancy stereos and stuff. We had a little transistor radio that fit in the shirt pocket and with a single earplug.
Or a record player like about this big.
And no boom boxes. And I can remember an older friend in the neighborhood walked up and goes, "Hey, what are you listening to, Royce?" And I said, "Well, Chuck Berry." He goes, "Chuck Berry? You like Chuck Berry?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, what song?" And I said, riding along in my automobile. And he goes, well, you need to listen to the rest of them. He's got much better stuff than that. But anyway, so I go all the way back to there and then back to, well, of course, the British invasion. But my father used to take my younger brother and I throughout the early 60s and stuff to see all the Elvis movies. And before those movies, my dad had Elvis albums in the house, you know. I'll never forget the Gold album, or Jailhouse Rock was the big one we had at home, you know. And but anyway, so we had all that stuff in the house, and some of that stuff I had possession of for so long, and you know, most of it's just gone. I mean, when I got around to finally checking out the stack that I hadn't looked at in a long time, there was quite a few empty covers, you know.
I always got to
go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
I always got a kick out of those Elvis movies.
Oh, I did too. Yeah.
He's with a young girl, and out of nowhere, he breaks into song, and there's all this music. Like, where's the band?
All these people dancing all around. Yeah. And Margaret was just saying some things just in the last couple of days about Elvis. Read some stuff online. She was a big part of some of his movies. And Margaret. Yeah. She was amazing. Okay, same here, Eric Schultz. I love the album to death. Right on. Angela, our good friend Angela's here. How you doing?
Hi, Angela. Just saw you.
Guess who? When they did the song for Wolfman Jack, growing up, we all loved the Wolfman. That's what I was saying, you know. And we'd park out in the desert and, you know, drink, get high, whatever. And he was all the way down in Tijuana, but they were putting the power out that was against the law in the United States. That's why he was down there. You know, we were out there. We could hear him, and it was a lot. I love that laugh of his. The guy was great.
Now, I became aware. I have a need to confess, Royce. I never heard of Wolfman Jack. Even if Clock for the Wolfman came out before, I would have thought, oh, that's just a character for the song. I wasn't aware of him until American Graffiti.
Oh.
Okay. Well, if anybody
in Northern California, there was no Wolfman Jack radio show. No, when I was growing up, it wasn't played. My parents listened to country and western when I was a child. There was just no Wolfman Jack in my life, but I caught up on him really quick. You know, after that, matter of fact, after his appearance in American Graffiti, he became quite the star for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, he had a whole different career, you know.
Hey guys, check out John Patterson's comment. I have it up on the screen. Well, Rush will always be our Canadian Beatles. Bachman Turner Overdrive will always be our Led Zeppelin.
I like the analogy.
Is that cool? First Beatles album, the Red Album for Christmas, 1980. Just after John's death, Eric Schultz. Yeah, well, that's cool. That's kind of what we were talking about with Bruce Colin. Yeah, that introduced a whole nother generation to the Beatles. That Red and Blue album. That was great. I've got both of them. My Red album's actually colored vinyl, and the blue one's just plain black vinyl. But they're available in red and blue. Go ahead, Chris.
Saying we're talking about the Beatles and that. My first experience with the Beatles is I think it was Sgt. Pepper, or maybe the Magical Mystery Tour. But it was, I think it was the Magic Mystery Tour, the yellow covered one. My dad had it, and then I was listening to it. And then when I went to my grandmother's house, my meme's house, she lived right next door to a library. So I'd go over there, and they had a bin of albums you could rent. So I'd get all the different Beatles albums, Simon and Garfunkel, stuff like that, Neil Young, just, you know, the mellow stuff that I could listen with my grandmother. But the Beatles albums, like, one of my favorite is that's the Magical Mystery Tour, that a lot of people pan it, but I think it's really good. I think the song Magical Mystery Tour is probably one of their better songs overall. I mean, the rest of the album, you know.
Oh yeah,
No, that was a great album. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? People younger than you, Chris, grew up. I mean, in their infancy with the album "One" by the Beatles. Yep. You know, and that's their launch point for them. You know, So everybody has a launch point, but it's good that as many legacy fans that you have in the mix, then you get a more even keeled view and history, because some of the history is being forgotten and people are too busy rewriting history. It's like when John Lennon died, all of a sudden it was John Lennon was everything about the Beatles, and Paul and George were sitting around holding plectrums, and Ringo was picking his nose, for God's sake. It was not that. Right. But a lot of rewriting of his. So you got to be careful. And those who are around to remember and have some history with it, then they may have something to say, and then listen and then come to a damn consensus,
Right. Right.
Who do we have up on the
Okay,
panel here?
I want to introduce Joseph Blue.
Hi, Joseph. I've seen your
Joseph.
comments many times.
Yeah. Now
How you doing, brother?
You've been on before, once, maybe even twice, haven't you, Joseph?
Just the one time. Can you
One
hear
time.
me?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
We
hear
hear
you.
you fine. So
I do tend to remember seeing you. I was up
Yeah.
on that one, wasn't I, Joseph?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. I make that big of an impression.
But I wanted to mention last week I was the one who suggested the guest booth. And I'm really happy that you're doing it, but I'm pissed off at the radio stations because we have WMGK, classic rock in Philadelphia, and the only song they ever play is American Woman.
and
I've written to them. I've listed all their hits. They just don't play them. One night at about 2 a.m, they played Undone.
Right. That's when I hear it here on the West Coast. If you're listening to the classic, rock station, which is belonged to by about 800 other rock stations that Live Nation has its tendrils in. You've got the list, and at 1 o'clock they'll do that occasionally. And you'll hear like Undone, or you'll hear Clap for the Wolfman or something like that. But you watch next year, because we'll get to this on the stream. Next year, Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings have announced they are getting back together. They now have control of the name of the Guess Who, and they're touring in 2026. You just watch them start playing the Guess Who songs. When that starts to happen, it happens every time. When the Rolling Stones released Hackney Diamonds, all of a sudden, the Rolling Stones still get a lot of airplay, but not like they were when that album came out or when they're on a tour. So get ready for that, because I predict that.
Yeah. That's right. Now, see, Joseph, I'm glad to hear that that's what you were pissed off about. I thought you were going to say you were pissed off I didn't give you credit for inspiring that show.
No, I think it was a great suggestion. I remember concurring. That'd be. Talk about them anytime. Yeah.
Well, I have a suggestion on the table. I asked in the chat, is there something in particular anybody would like to see as a show? Because that's what that's all part of it. And actually, Paul P401 would like to see a show on the band America, and I think that could be a great show.
Oh, great show.
There's a good chance that's going to be next week, America.
Oh, that'd be great. I'd love to talk about America.
Yeah, I've seen them twice in the past 2 years. So
nice.
No, I've never seen them, Dan. I'm jealous.
Well, you may not get another chance, because when I saw them 2 years ago, of course, we all know the original 3 members. Well, of course, one of them did pass away years ago.
Right.
So you had 2 that was touring, and I saw the 2 touring. This last
and
tour,
the 2 were really the only ones left toward the end of their career, when they were still making good hits too, by the way.
And now Dewey is no longer touring, so he only got one, But
and
they still sound like America.
Yeah, Dewey's the one that I like. He's the guy. He's the one that wrote Tin Man and Ventura Highway, right?
I believe
Horse with No Name. Yeah. He's not the blonde guy. He's the guy with like my color of hair if I didn't have all this gray.
They all had their hair feathered back in those days.
Yeah.
He wore the glasses. So
Piccolina the cat brought up the song. Piccolina brought up the song "Hit the Road, Jack." It's funny how a certain song will just grab you because you have a memory that's connected to it that's so strong you'll never forget about it.
It's in your DNA.
we were teenagers leaving Boulder City at the site of what was going to be this little battle between Henderson and Boulder City, this like intertown rivalry that went back to me seeing the older guys involved with that stuff when I was a kid. And we were driving back from Boulder City. We got pulled over by the Boulder City police. We were like, I think 16 years old. And he goes, and my friend Terry that was driving, we're still great friends today. He didn't want to pull over for the guy, and he finally pulled over. And the guy goes, "I'm going to arrest every one of you for, failure to yield to an emergency vehicle." But then he finally realized he couldn't arrest all of us because only one of them was driving, Terry. So he arrested Terry and told me and Danny Laris, to start walking home. And it was several miles, And Danny Laris and I walking down the highway were singing, "Hit the road, Jack." Don't come back. I know that's a stupid story, but I can't help myself when I hear stuff like that. It reminds me of things like that.
I like that story.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I thought it was cool.
And I'm sure Danny would remember that too. Winslow Red Cross, I'm a Gen X, but my older brother graduated in 75, my sister in 81. Their music rubbed off on me. And then there was my parents' love for old country music. Well, I was kind of born from, my parents were like direct opposites. My dad was a huge country fan. We had Hank Williams Sr. in the house and that kind of music. And my mother from New York Italian, only one in her entire family of 9 kids that didn't come over on the boat to Ellis Island. She was born after they got here. But she was into like, Perry Como and that kind of music, and and so they were always competing for, to get me to listen and like the music they liked, over the other parent. And she says to me one day in a whispered voice, "Royce, country music, yeah, I know your daddy likes it, but it was kind of considered low class." I almost died when she said that. I thought it was funny. Steve Dennis.
Country is sort of, don't hold it against me if you think I'm wrong, but it's sort of a white man's blues, like a poor farmer's white man blues.
That's exactly right, Chris.
A slave blues, everything that came from the southern U.S. But I think if you listen to the lyrics and you listen to the feel of the old country, it's got very similar feelings to old blues.
Right. Well, you've got with country, you got to understand, jazz had its big time. We'll start with the jazz being the big time during World War II. Toward the end of World War II, my dad was in the U.S. Navy. He boxed for them. He was Golden Gloves U.S. Navy. But when he got out, he was also Howard Noland and his Mountaineers.
Is that right?
Yeah. And he was a professional musician, played with some big stars, Buck Owens, Eddie Albert. And as a matter of fact, the reason I'm here is he needed a female singer. My mom answered the call, and 3 Harvey Wallbangers later, I was conceived. So I was raised in a family of country professional musicians. I saw my dad on TV and everything else. And in the Bay Area, which is Northern California, folks, for those of you who aren't aware, here on the West Coast, in the San Francisco area, the old Pacific Fleet was mothballed. But at the time, and when I was extremely young, like 3, 4, 5, 6, those ships were coming in and out of the harbor still. They weren't undressing them yet. They were still ready for action. They were just home from the war. And we had, at this time, San Francisco, you walked down San Francisco any day of the year, you saw sailors after sailors after sailors. And the number one hottest music in the United States at that time was country western music. It was between jazz and rock.
Gotcha.
I mean, We had television shows. We had the Jimmy Dean Show with Ralph the dog, who later became a freaking Muppet before there were Muppets. We had Johnny Cash. We had the Everly Brothers guiding us from rock and roll, or from country into rock and roll. And that's when country started losing a grip, but they were still selling as well as rock and roll. When those early rock and roll records like Rock Around the Clock, Wake Up Little Susie and stuff like that was real big, Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire was being played right next to it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, good country. Good country is great. Bad country stinks.
Right.
Because being raised in a country, when I finally got into rock and roll, this is true, Chris, I always said I hate opera and I hate country. When I was a teenager. When
I was a teenager, right?
Yeah, but it was me rebelling against my parents and my background. Yeah. That was so them, not me.
My father could pick some guitar. He had an old silver tone. Every single fret buzzed. I wish I had that guitar. I think my brother finally took it and hawked it or something. But anyway, there was two things that were mandatory at my house when we were a kid. One of them was hee haw. with Buck Owens and Roy Clark and everybody else, and the other one was Billy Graham Crusades. Those are the two mandatory things. You could be having the most fun you've ever had outside playing with your friends, and when one of those would come on, the door would swing open down the street of our house. My dad would yell, "Royce, it's on!"
Oh, Jesus. The only reason I ever watched Hee Haw was I was trying to find something to watch, and the only other freaking alternative was Lawrence Welk, which bored me to tears.
I don't know if anybody's read this George Pita comment. It's just hilarious. Anne Margaret was born in Sweden, for your information. I was a teenage kid when her Carnal Knowledge with Jack Nicholson came out. Bubba boom, you know what I'm saying? Epic. Had Royce in the house. I know what you're saying. Yeah, she was hot. She was hot.
Yeah, we were all doubly impressed.
Can I make a comment that kind of ties in with what Mike and I were saying? Is well, you were talking about, Michael, you said, oh, jazz and country was your worst.
Right.
And then once you had a chance over time to listen to it on your own and it wasn't being force fed down your throat, then you're able to appreciate it.
That's right, Chris. You got it.
That's a really good point.
Mindset, and it's not being forced upon you.
Right.
That's the thing.
And
it wasn't 6 months ago. Yeah, it wasn't 6 months ago. I ordered Hank Williams Sr.'s greatest hits. I could have ordered anything, but I ordered that. I like Hank Williams Sr. I like Hank Williams Jr., both Cephas. I had 2 or 3 of his, CDs, down through the years and stuff like that.
I hired Hank Williams III for one of my events one time.
Oh, the third. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Both Cephas's son.
And he's not into country. He's more into heavy stuff. Changed his music style from his father and his grandfather.
Gotcha.
Yeah, talk about country. You just mentioned Hank Williams. Years back, my mother's mom, my meme, the one who lived next to the library I was telling you about. Well, her couple of her favorites were Patsy Cline and Hank Williams Sr. So I bought her a couple of box sets. I mean, at the time they were cassette box sets, but one, it was Hank Williams Sr. I forget the name of it. And then the other one was, it was Patsy Cline. And this I saw in the local record store, the CD store, whatever. It was on the shelf for probably a couple of months. And I decided, okay, maybe in honor of my grandmother, I'll buy it. And that's this Patsy Cline box set.
Well, it's interesting, Chris, because my mom's 2 favorite singers was Hank Williams Sr. and Patsy Cline. I love Patsy Cline. I've never liked Hank Williams. Yeah. Never. He's too nasally.
I can pick and choose some of his songs, but not a whole lot of them. I agree there.
Yeah. I totally bow down to his talent. I recognize that he was probably country's very first superstar songwriter. Okay. And I recognize his songs within that genre are very well written. It's how he delivers it. It's too nasally. And I can't get that skeletal figure out of my head when I hear his voice. It's like he looks like he sings. He was so skeletal looking. But my mom, to the day she died, said, Michael, one of these days you're gonna get him. And so far it just hasn't taken. But I appreciate his genius. His spot in history is secure. I just don't care for it. That's all.
Yeah.
When I
Well-
seen Willie Nelson, he would talk about stories of him and Hank Williams. They'd be sitting
Right.
on top of a car one day, and they'd be playing guitar, and I got to go run and write the rest of the song, and they'd stay up all night and write
Right.
songs together. And
Hey guys, I got to say one thing here. Just ask everybody my usual impassioned plea throughout the show. Hit that like button if you haven't already,
Oh my God,
And-
yes.
And if you're not a subscriber, we appreciate you being here, and you're always welcome to come back no matter what. But please hit that subscribe button and help the show to continue growing. That would be absolutely amazing. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Okay,
is anybody out there?
I don't know. I hear you, but
Had
I
to
don't
say-
see anything. Oh my God.
Okay.
Where'd you guys go?
Novice Nick does.
I hit. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Because I hit
Don't do that to me, Royce.
I
I'm
hit-
scared.
I hit something and a box came up and said my audio was removed, but I was removed with it, But anyway, we need to get back to our show here a little bit. The Guess Who. Okay,
And guess
so-
who we're going to talk about?
Okay, well, guess who we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about guess who we're going to talk about. They officially broke up. They officially broke up in '75 with their major reunion tour in the early 2000s. A separate band organized by former bassist Jim Kell also
Boo.
toured and recorded under the Guess Who name, which caused a lot of stuff we're getting to. The Guess Who name for several decades, often performing without any original band members on stage. After a long legal dispute, Bachman and Cummings regained control of the Guess Who name in 2024 in a settlement. I was really glad when that happened,
There's a
Okay, so the dispute over the Guess Who name goes back years. The band had apparently never filed a trademark claim. That's interesting. I got a story to go along with that. It never filed a trademark claim for its name during the height of its fame in the late 60s and early 70s. And by 86, Kell had filed a trademark request for the Guess Who name. The rock band The Guess Who faced controversy surrounding the name and legacy of the band, leading to a legal battle between founding members Randy Bachman, Burton Cummings, and former members Jim Kell and Gary Peterson. The dispute centered on who has the right to use the band name and perform their iconic songs, culminating in a lawsuit and a settlement that gave Bachman and Cummings control of the trademark. I have more details on that, but I got to throw something out real quick. Talking about not getting a copyright. Well, I had a friend, Gary Bang. Gary Bang's pretty famous in motorcycle circles, okay? I can remember when I was 18 years old going to a motorcycle shop, Harley shop in Las Vegas, and all of the aftermarket parts on the wall, just a whole wall of them in packages were all Gary Bang. Gary Bang was one of the huge, early on, I mean, he got out of it later on, but he was a huge aftermarket parts supplier for Harley Davidson motorcycles. Well, what happened was, Gary Bang had he had his own bike shop. Him and his son, Gary Bang Jr., right here in Atascadero where I live. In fact, one of my daughters worked for him, putting the merchandise out, all the Harley clothing and stuff like that. And she was good friends with Gary Jr. But Gary Bang Sr., back in the day, he trademarked that bar and shield logo that Harley Davidson thought was theirs. They never trademarked it. And because he owned the trademark, and incidentally, he's not a known name. Gary Bang is in the Motorcycle Hall of Fame for his contribution to all what I'm talking about right now. But he traded that trademark to Harley Davidson for a fully stocked Harley Davidson motorcycle store where they furnished all the bikes, gave him all the parts and everything in exchange for that trademark he had. Wow. Okay, so let's get back to the Guess Who now, and I want to talk about that trademark dispute in a little more deep detail. After the band's peak in 1970, Kell and Peterson continued to tour, like I'd already mentioned, and play the records under the Guess Who name. Well, Bachman and Cummings formed other successful bands. Kell and Peterson later registered the trademark for the Guess Who name, leading to the legal battle. Okay. False advertising allegations was another issue. Bachman and Cummings claimed that Kell and Peterson had deceptively represented themselves as the original Guess Who, leading
That's because they did. That's because they did.
Okay. Well, leading concert goers to believe they were the actual band. They alleged that the band was using old photos of Bachman and Cummings to dupe fans into buying tickets. That's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Okay. Song rights and performance licenses. Cummings terminated his performing rights agreement for his songs, effectively preventing the band or anyone else from playing his hits like American Woman, These Eyes at concerts. That drastic move was a way to force the band to stop using the name and songs. So how did the settlement turn out? We touched on it already. Bachman and Cummings eventually settled their lawsuit with Kell and Peterson, gaining control of the Guess Who trademark. The settlement ended a bitter dispute over the legacy of one of Canada's most famed classic rock acts. The Guess Who end decades-long legal battle, an impossible task. Okay. So in September 2024, the 250 greatest albums of the 20th century so far, Cummings, who owns the publishing rights to the Guess Who's, big album. Okay, so that's kind of it. I'm going to jump back here and let's get the panel back up to talk about some of these things. Man, this chat, I'll never get to the end of the chat, and that's the way they've been for weeks and weeks and weeks now. Really appreciate all you people coming. I mean, you just make this all worthwhile because, like most of us up here can tell you, I know Michael for sure and Dan. There's a lot of work goes into these shows. You don't just flip the computer on and go. You got research to do and get dates and accomplishments, all listed and study them and, to put a show together. So when you guys show up, honest to God, it makes it all worthwhile. Okay, I got a question from the chat. How did Don Corleone know that it was Brazzini all along? Okay, well, well, Titania was just a pimp. He could have never outfought Santino. So it was Barzini all along. Okay, next. All right. So did that answer your question? Did that answer your question? I think
Can I make a statement?
Yes, please.
I Googled Randy Bachman, and in 1966, he converted to the Church of Latter-day Saints to marry. She was.
Happened.
And I think that's pretty goofy.
Well, I know my oldest daughter. I probably shouldn't even talk about this, but she's got a degree in psychology, and she's a pharmaceutical sales rep and does really, really well. But I remember when she was taking a course on religion in college, and she said to me, "Anybody that believes in a religion after taking this course, I mean, it's just like a joke." The next thing I knew, she was converting over to Judaism because she was marrying a Jewish fellow, and they wanted to make sure that it took her converting for the daughter to be Jewish too. So I could totally relate to what you're talking about there.
And they stated his son left the church, but they have no idea whether or not he's still in the church.
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? That's interesting because I grew up in Henderson, Nevada. And, Vegas, 9 miles down the highway, had all the jobs in the world, all those casinos and stuff like that. And, of course, building all those new casinos out on the Strip and too, employed, 3,000 laborers alone working on the Mirage, just laborers, not counting the iron workers and, all the other trades, electricians, plumbers, heating and air, brick masons, concrete framer. Vegas produced a lot of jobs. So what happened is Utah, right next door, all these people moved, back down to our Vegas Henderson area for work because Utah was a little on the slow side as far as providing jobs. And so I wound up with a whole lot of friends that were Mormon. In fact, some of my friends were joined the Boy Scouts at their Mormon church. And so me and my friend Terry, who I mentioned earlier, that got arrested for failure to yield to an emergency vehicle, him and I both joined because our friends were all there. So we were all going to church at to the Boy Scouts at the Mormon church. And I will say, though, that Scoutmaster, he took us to places that you'll never see again, like where the movie The Magnificent Seven was filmed, and there was a couple of rail tracks going across this short canyon with a rail car still sitting there, and some of these props had been left behind. And we went to see Mao Tse's tank, an Indian, used to hide up there. He'd go into town and cause mayhem, then come out and hide in this area. I think it was Red Rock, which nobody believed me was even there. My family, we started driving out in the desert. I said, pretty soon we're going to come over a hill and everything's going to be red. And they all, at some point, it was taking a little longer than I remembered. And they were all laughing at me. And we came over a hill. Their mouths all dropped open. All the hills were just red like sandstone. It was something else. But anyway, let's get back. So any more comments on the Guess Who?
I just put in the chat, I put a link to a video with Randy Bachman being interviewed where he lashes out at the fake Guess Who. It's about a 12-minute video. It's worth it if you want to hear it.
Okay. Yeah. Randy Bachman. Okay, good.
No, Burton Cummings. Sorry.
Oh, Burton Cummings. Okay. Yeah,
I've got a couple of things to say about this as a wrap up, Royce. Getting back to what you covered with Jim Cale and Gary Peterson. Yeah, it was Jim Cale first. He asked permission from Bachman and Cummings to use the name The Guess Who for a special set of concerts, maybe 1 or 2 or 3. It was a very finite time. Then he found out that the Guess Who, and this is on the Guess Who, legally speaking. I don't know why they did not trademark their name, but he found out, and then he got ownership of that, brought Gary Peterson back into the fold. And of course, Gary stayed performing with the band up until a year and a half ago, something like that, with Cale owning the name off the radar. And they're just, now they have a band of clones. It's basically the same thing as Foreigner. Now, part of the image thing that was wrong, if you went to Spotify and you go, the Guess Who, it was identified by the current members. That's the picture you saw. The picture would come up as These Eyes Are Playing, and it would be the current people. All right. So in order to combat that, Burton Cummings, as a songwriter, has the rights to put a stop to the performing rights of his songs. All right. Now, this was very bodacious of him, because not only when you do that, you put a stop to you, the writer, from performing those songs. He put his own ass on the line. He put his own money. He lost money over this. This is a man of virtue. This is a man who is willing to fight the proper fight for the right reasons and put his money where his mouth is, and he prevails. So when you ask me, Jim Cale, who was originally fired from the band in 1972 for being a shit disturber to begin with, not working out with the band, right? And then he comes cheesy, that puts, I'm going to give him the Jan Winter applause. I'm copying some of this from Rachel, right? Trying to make it my own. But no, seriously, how fucking wonderful of you, But anyway,
everything you
he
just
put
talked
it.
about, Michael, is in that interview. So if you go back in the chat and copy and paste the link, and everything you just said, he deals with in that interview.
Right. And you know what? When Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings are still alive on this planet, Yeah, I wouldn't go see the Guess Who with just one of them. But I am interested in seeing the Guess Who with just the two of them, even if it means there's no other original members at all in that
Yeah,
mix. I
well,
don't know
yeah,
how they're
yeah.
going to man it. Are there going to be special concerts where maybe Jim Cale? I don't know what they, they've been kind of low key about that, but we do know we get Bachman, and we do know we get Cummings. And to me, if you've got them and another, that's as close. It's not the real Guess Who, but it's as close. It's almost like a Celebration Day for Led Zeppelin. It's not quite the Guess Who, but damn, it's close. I mean, they were the major talents to me.
Well, they were the major talents. So yeah. Well, and look how many bands that we still love that have switched so many members over time. Sometimes it works for us, sometimes it doesn't, but oftentimes it does. I mean, you think about classic rock. I mean, how many original? I mean, the Rolling Stones aren't the original lineup. They've had their lineup changes over the years, and Keith Richards and Mick Jagger have been a constant, but really no one else has. And
usually bands who can include members replacing original members are bands that also come in and produce new exciting music with those new members. The Stones managed to do that. When you replace members of bands and you just go on tour playing the hits, that's a freaking tribute band. I'm sorry. Plain and simple. That's not the band. If you've got Kelly Clarkson, everybody goes, oh, he's such a great singer, or Kelly Hansen, sorry. He's such a great singer. So where are his songs? Where are the songs? Where is the material from this version of Foreigner? And where was the material from that version of the Guess Who? Sometimes it counts, Royce, and sometimes it doesn't.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah.
It depends if the creative flow of that band continues. Yes, changed members like baseball trading cards, and yet kept it alive somehow with those replacement members, each of them adding to a new layer of a new reinvented Yes, with just a couple of members here or there. So it can be done, but the lazy way about it is, we've got two excellent examples in Foreigner and the Guess Who, the fake Guess Who and the fake Foreigner. Right?
Yeah, I love this comment about Erga Splitting Loudenboomer, because I actually did a show where I dressed up like the Godfather, it's on my channel. We appreciate your effort and research. Besides, you always take the cannolis.
By the way,
the show is about cannolis.
Royce, the Erga Splitten is most of the time you'll see him in the comments. He's known as Gear Jam. There's something wrong with his account, and it's coming out as that. He notified me on my channel. So anytime you see Erga Splitten, that's Gear Jam.
Thanks for letting me know. Me know. Now, Chris, how long ago did you put this link up? I'm trying to find out how far behind I am on the chat. About 20 minutes.
Just a couple minutes ago. You're not too far back.
Okay, good.
Royce, you got wonderful super thanks from Michael Boswell for $5. Thank you, Michael.
Oh, wow. I got to scroll down. Yeah, okay.
Of course, as I
Michael,
said,
thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
And Michael always coming in with a slight disagreement with me. Yes, they did, Michael, but there were other three sites were all re-recording or live versions or whatever, and it was slipped in under the mat. That's my only criticism of that. But you're right. I'll bow to your expertise there. I was aware that they put out an album and that there was some new material about it, but the album didn't sell because of the new material. And there were no hits. There was no great excitement for that album other than they got a chance to re-record some of this stuff. And I think, wasn't that the album that also had live, or is it all live? You can let us know, Michael, in the comments. But good point.
Michael, I really appreciate this. Their first album with Kelly Hansen had one side of new material. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that comment. Thank you so much for the super chat. That's just awesome of you.
Appreciate it, Michael. Awesome.
I've got a question for Michael Boswell. since
Okay.
all week long I've been doing research on Mark Farner. I came across an interview. Someone named Michael Boswell interviewed Mark Farner. Is this the same Michael Boswell? I'm just
That's
curious.
interesting.
That would be weird.
Yeah.
The interview with Mark Farner was about 3 or 4 years. Okay, he said it's not him. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we would have heard about that before now.
Yeah, just same name.
Yeah, right. You kick arse, Michael Boswell.
Well, and Michael Boswell is very well. He's knowledgeable, so I could see you reaching for that, Dan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't listen to the Guess Who, kiss my ring.
Right.
And keep the cannolis.
When have I ever refused an accommodation? Just this one time. This
Hey, Dawson,
this Dawson Walters business.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to make a comment. I didn't realize you were continuing, Royce. I was going to make a comment to Dawson where he just showed a tiny little Toronto Maple Leaf ring. Come on, if you're going to feel bad, do it like this and just show it right off.
They got a Idomi from 2002, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Boswell heard a very interesting interview with Paul Stanley. I just put a video, well, it's been a couple of weeks now, on my members only channel. I've been trying to add a couple a week now. Added a couple of fun ones recently, one about Elvis and one about Jim Morrison, The Doors. His gravesite in Paris, France had a bust on it, a bust of Jim Morrison. And it was stolen. And after 37 years, they finally got it back. That was kind of an interesting story. And the other one with Elvis that I just put on, I put them both on late this week, had to do with Elvis, trying to decide whether or not he really wanted to do the song that Mac Davis wrote for him, In the Ghetto. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And
I love that video. I left a message with you saying I like the original title, Vicious Cycle.
Yeah, Vicious Cycle.
Yeah.
It all came full circle when the next baby was born in the ghetto. Yeah. No, that was a great comment, Michael. But I have fun. I have fun doing those. They're shorter. They might last anywhere from 6. I think I've had one maybe as long as 18 minutes at one time. They're just short shows on interesting topics.
Well, the reason I was able to make that comment, Royce, is I happen to be a Royce in the House member.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yes, we're getting a lot of exclusive content, exclusive videos on there. So if you're interested, folks, Royce in the House has a membership, and you're all welcome to join it, obviously. And if you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe and please hit the thumbs up. Let's keep this channel growing, man. We put a lot into it, and we've gone through a lot of things that no one will ever know about.
Well, we really are looking for that 2,000 mark, folks, and you could help us out. We are so damn close. Royce, you just hit 1.92.
No, I did. Okay.
Yes, you did.
Good. Yeah.
So we are 800 away from hitting 2,000.
Yeah.
All right. And
right.
You fine folks can change that overnight, man. Hit that subscribe to Royce in the House.
No, not
only 80 away.
Not 800, 80 away.
80 away. I'm sorry, 80 away.
No,
I meant to say, open mouth, insert foot. And Royce, Paul sent you one Royce in the House gift membership. You might want to explain to the folks how that works.
Well, they get chosen. You can't. At one time, I think we all thought you asked for it once you saw it was gifted, and they would give it to you if you asked in time. But in reality, they pick someone randomly from your chat to give it to.
Right. And you can either ignore it. If you ignore it, I think it eventually goes away and it pops up in someone else's chat. I'm not sure about that, but we can only surmise how it works.
No,
but if it pops up on the screen, doesn't cost you a dime, click on that and see if there's something worthwhile here behind.
Yeah. Well, so what happens is you get 1 month free for the membership for being a member. And I think you can join as little as a couple of dollars a month, and so it works out pretty well. It works out pretty. You get to preview the channel, the membership only channel. So anyway, Paul, once again, Paul, thanks so much. And could you translate this 11,900 COP into USA dollars?
$2.86.
Okay, $2. Okay, thank you, Dan. Thank you. $2.86
or 87, somewhere in there.
Yeah, you actually you did say that earlier. You did say that earlier. So Paul has given us 2 super chats tonight and 1 membership. So thank you so much again, Paul. You're a total rock star, man. You're really helping the channel grow, and it's really expanding right now, especially with all the memberships. Paul gave us, I think it was 11 memberships one time, and he's given us a lot of memberships. Let's see. I've got notes here, and we appreciate it. And this is a list of my members right now. Hold on. Let me make myself big. These are my members. These people have joined my membership. And there was a total of last week there was a total of 34 of them. Yeah. So anyway, someone's doing something with their volume. Is it still happening? Okay, it's gone now. Great. It's gone now. Great. It's not gone. Okay. Did anybody just change anything?
No.
Okay, Rampage video, 40 viewers. So there's 40 people watching right now.
Wow, you're coming in loud.
Yeah, something happened. I didn't touch anything. It had to have happened on somebody else's channel.
Did I? Am I coming in normal? I don't know.
No, you are coming in normal.
Oh, okay.
Okay, huh. I've turned my volume down. Did that help? No.
Yeah, no, somebody's audio is feeding back.
Yeah, somebody's audio is feeding back. They got a YouTube up also on or something.
Huh. Wow.
$2.86 to them all. Okay. Well, this is
Dave, is that yours?
Hey, brother, we can test this out. My headphones are ready to go, and my iPad's just about out. So I'm going to have to sign off anyway.
Okay.
And I'll keep watching, though. I'm not leaving the stream. I want to thank everybody on this planet for showing up tonight. I had a great time, Royce, Dan, Dawson, and, of course, Chris. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I'll see you on the next stream, folks.
Michael, thanks for being here.
Love you.
With us. Love you, man.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care, buddy.
Okay, I think that actually solved the problem.
Did it?
Yeah, Michael's computer must have been, getting near the end of its battery or something. I'm not really sure what happened, but as soon as he signed off, it stopped.
Yeah. Can I mention? Yeah. I never got a chance to say I'm 71, and I remember all the hits. Listening to them on the radio.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I really didn't get into Bachman Turner Overdrive that much. And then there was a movie out called Taking Care of Business with Jim Belushi, and I can't remember who his co-star was. They opened up the movie and closed it with Taking Care of Business.
Okay. I kind of remember that. Yeah. Yeah, it was a fun movie.
And they play a lot more of BTO on the classic rock station.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was Elvis. That was Elvis's little saying too. He always had the TCB, taking care of business. I wonder if he got that from Bachman Turner Overdrive.
I wonder. Yeah.
Do you know what else they don't play? anymore. They don't play any more Janis Joplin. They don't play hardly any Kinks. Once in a while, Lola. They don't play. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. The Pretenders. They play Brass in Pocket. That's it. You never get. But
Okay.
they at 3 o'clock. They always celebrate with a block of 3 songs by one group. Now, for instance, if Randy Bachman birthday came up, they'd play 3 songs by Randy Bachman, probably the Guess Who and Bachman Turner Overdrive. And something comes up with the Pretenders, they'll play 3 Pretenders songs at 3 o'clock. But otherwise, the rest of the time, they don't play them. There's so many. It's sort of frustrating. They just recently added Huey Lewis in the News to their lineup.
I saw Huey Lewis in the News in concert up here at the Paso Robles Fairground. It's been probably 25 years,
You know,
But
that's one of the reasons
I enjoyed it.
You know, that's one of the reasons why I don't even listen to over-the-air radio anymore. I listen to Sirius XM because there you can select the type of music you want. They play those songs all the time.
I don't have Sirius now. I used to have it in all my cars, but I loved it, Dan. Go ahead. I didn't
they got the classic vinyl channel. They've got the classic rewind. They got, I mean, just almost any genre you can think of, they got on Sirius XM. So if you like Janis Joplin, they've got those songs on there, but you got to pay for it. That's the only problem. The free channels,
you have
free
to pay
channels
for
aren't doing it.
I get this continuous offer. I can get 6 months for a few dollars a month, and then it switches over to the, I don't know, $29 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I've been resisting. I'm fine with the local channels I have right now. Some of them are pretty good around here anyway. And but you're right. You don't get that big a variety anymore, do you?
Well, they play a lot of the 80s stuff.
Yeah, the 80s and 90s.
Hair bands and and there's a classic there's a, I forget what it's called, Music Choice on cable, and it's just music, and I listen to the classic rock station on the cable, the TV cable, and I forgot what I was saying. They play Janis Joplin all the time.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, some of her solo stuff and Big Brother.
Okay, in the holding company, yeah. Well,
I
that's
got a record
awesome.
to show you.
Okay, let's see it.
So talk about variety here. I got Burton Cummings, "Woman Love." And
no kidding.
There's not much of a glare here, but actually there is. Let me take the record out.
Is that a solo album?
That it's signed by the man himself. Oh, there we go. Yeah, by Burton Cummings, "Luck of the Irish," and there it is, right there, when the album came out.
Wow, that's nice.
He signed the album, and
now, did you have him sign it, or did you get it from someone that was signed already?
So I got it from someone that was signed. It was where was I? I was up in Burlington, Ontario. It was a yard sale, garage sale, and I picked it out. And the guy was like, "Oh, there's one band I can't stand. It's the Guess Who." So I wanted to find all the Guess Who albums, and so I said, "Oh, hey, can I have this?" And I kind of covered it up a little bit. He said, "Okay, okay, $2." Okay.
Are you kidding me?
But still, he even gave me another free record. He gave me, I got My Own Way to Rock.
Oh, look at that.
But the person he got it off of was like, I guess one of Burton Cummings, one of his girlfriends there. So he would bring it over, but she had to have the kid with him. So Burton's like, "Okay, here, kid, here's $5. Go grab a chocolate bar from the corner store." And they'd go have fun, and then he'd come back and say, okay, here's a record for you, and he signed it. So that's how we got that record there.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice collection there. Let me see if I had anything else that I was gonna bring up, any kind of like closing statements or anything. Okay. Okay. No, I think I pretty much. I mean, you could there's volumes of stuff you could say. Really, okay.
Can I say one last thing to you? When you did the Led Zeppelin series, album by album, I only owned 4 of their albums on
Oh, I
CD.
see. Okay.
And after watching all your shows, I got all the rest of their studio CDs.
Their studio, yeah. I have the studios, and I have several compilations. How the West Was Won, the Mothership, BBC sessions, and there's some other stuff.
But your show
But
influenced me to step it up and get the rest of
yeah,
the
no, I
studio.
think that's totally cool. I love hearing stuff like that. We were talking earlier about someone else that said the same thing. They were talking
Yeah.
about, let's see, they were talking about Grand Funk Railroad, and they had never really paid any attention to them till my show, and now they've listened to the first 2 albums. They love them, and starting on the 3rd one.
And
But,
every weekday they play 3 Led Zeppelin songs at 8 o'clock called "Get the Lead Out," and
yeah.
it can be from any of their albums. And then at 10 o'clock they have Jonesin' for the Stones, where they play 3 Stone songs. And I've been bugging them to do a Beatle break because
Oh, wow.
they used to have a 2-hour show on Sunday morning of all Beatles. And the guy that did it was also syndicated, but he was here in Philadelphia.
Wow. Hey, I gotta bring this up while I've got Caitlin's comment up. Caitlin has a show, Caitlin's Magical Corner, and she usually goes twice a week. With a co-host, and she covers a lot of fun stuff. She's like a journalist. She gets hired by freelance. She gets hired by people to go write up rock concerts and stuff like that. And Caitlin's just really good people. And I would encourage everyone to keep an eye out for Caitlin Stoddard's show, and go check her out. I get over there every chance I get. She's usually, a lot of her shows, or most of her shows, or all of her shows, go on during like hours that I might normally be at work. But even sometimes, when I can and when it's not too noisy, I'll put my phone on and let her channel play. And she's totally good people. I've known her now on YouTube for, like, I don't know, it's got to be close to 5 years now, right, Kate? A bunch of us go back to some shows together. Dan McNew, just the fax man, he was there too. And we all go back quite a ways to some shows we're no longer involved with, but we were just in the chat. And sometimes we got pulled up, But anyway, nothing wrong with being just in the chat, but just so you know, it wasn't like a show that we were really truly part of. But some of them were interactive, and so, it's too hard to explain, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah.
the ward, we'd compete with vinyl records, with one another, and then the chat would vote, and there was a system where the votes got counted, and if you won, you'd win albums, and if you lost, you got sent to the ward. I've got a picture of all those bandaged arms and black eyes and broken bones. And we're all sitting in the ward together. I've pulled that picture out before. I don't want to dig for it now, but I think we're getting close to signing off here, folks. I want to thank everybody for coming to the show, supporting the show by being here, putting your comments out. Dr. Rick, Caitlin's a doll. Absolutely. Angela, we have fun on our show. Yes, we do. Michael Noland, a great big thanks to all of you for showing up, folks. Don't forget to join me tomorrow night at 5 p.m. as promised. Okay. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for helping. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being great buddies. Caitlin, I have not picked. Okay. Just a personal comment there.
And what's the next week?
Michael.
What's the next week again?
Next week, I think we're going to be doing America.
Oh,
the band America.
Oh, good.
Yeah. That should be fun.
I can bring some clips from the last couple of shows I've seen.
Oh, good. Yeah, do that, Dan. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I know the tour, Dan. I saw that tour. They put on a great show, didn't they?
Yeah.
Take care, Royce. Thank you, Michael. Dan, how long ago was this for these clips? How old are they?
Well, I just saw them about 3 months ago.
Oh, good.
And I saw them 2 years ago in June.
Okay.
So
I don't think they made it up here to the Central Coast of California, because we have a couple of different venues. We've got, of course, the fair every year. There's a lot of acts come to the fair at Stadium Acts. I've seen Van Halen there. I've seen Tom Petty with Bob Dylan there. And of course, being a fair and the kids are in 4-H bringing their animals, there's a lot of country acts too, because the fairs are kind of a country thing. But we've had just absolutely top rock acts there. I saw Journey there a couple of years ago. Yeah, my wife and I and my niece, we went and saw Journey there. And we don't go like we used to go. We used to get season tickets and go to 2 or 3 concerts. And I can't even remember all the shows I've seen there. But the other venue is a much smaller venue, no bad seats, and that's Vina Robles Amphitheater. And I've seen Jason Bonham there. I saw Alice Cooper there about 3 years ago. A whole bunch of people I've seen there. I know there's a bunch of good shows coming now there. So anyway, so we get our fair share up here, but I don't remember America being up here. I just don't. They might have been a few years back at our Chumash Casino out on the way to Santa Barbara. It's not real close. It's about an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes away. But I remember America came somewhere around here, but it wasn't like Vina Robles Amphitheater. So anyway, folks, yeah. So I enjoyed the show tonight. I enjoyed the chat. I enjoyed all you hosts and co-hosts helping me out here. Yeah, that's always a good thing. And we're going to be signing off. And hope to see you all again next week. If you're in the membership, check out more of the membership-only videos. That's been growing. And like to know who maybe got the membership tonight, but it doesn't matter because I can print that out. It'll give me a fresh printout of who my members are anytime I want to print it. So anyway, guys, I'm going to say good night to everybody. And thank you all. Once again, I appreciate each and every one of you. And that's what's happening in Royce's World tonight. And we will see you all hopefully next week.
Good night.
Good night.